All right.
All right, so we got round two here. We had some technical difficulties here with my man, former Mayor of Jackson, Tony Yarber. So we were talking about how you had the meeting with Kenny Stokes to have the ordinance changed for pit bulls in the city of Jackson, which led you to be tapped to become a city council person.
Yeah, interesting story. We were at Marshawn's headquarters one Friday night. It was about 11 o'clock, and they were trying to figure out who's going to run for his position. Because when you're the mayor, what you want is to be able to have a council that you can work with. And if you can have any say or any influence in that, you want to try to do that, right? So that's what Marshawn was attempting to do. He wanted to, have some friends on the council. He thought that I would be one of those, and so I ran. I won. Unfortunately, he did not win, and I ended up being the Ward 6 representative for City of Jackson.
I don't know why I said Ward 1. I knew that was Ward 6. Sorry about that. But
Uh,
but you were saying, and I know one thing me and you agree on 100% is, these city council people, these county commissioners, our county supervisors, they make so many decisions that affect our day-to-day lives. And, and you said yourself, you hear the media pushing the Biden versus Trump agenda, try to get you to think one way or the other. And even though those elections are important and the executive branch of the United States is important, what affects our everyday lives of these people that we're elected in these local and state elections? And I know you had a big part in the local government of Jackson as a city council person, making some important decisions. And that led you then in 2014 to become the mayor of the city of Jackson, which is a job I do not envy. So talk a little bit about, your thoughts on that, and then how those decisions that you made as a city council person then led you to become the mayor of the city of Jackson in 2014.
well, let me back up and address
Sure.
something. I want to try to make as much sense to the students as I can. So in Jackson, when I was a teenager, which was a long time ago, one of the first effects that I felt from city leaders was a curfew. They did a curfew for teenagers. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, how unfair, how unfortunate. I hated and despised the fact that they did it. Well, this is the guy that cut the grass that y'all voted for, to run, and he won because everybody thought he was a nice guy. This is the lady who didn't, she's got a few classes under her belt, but doesn't have the business acumen to save her life. And these are people who are making these decisions, y'all. So when you're considering these kinds of elections, even if you want to think as minute as a curfew, if these people decided they want to have a curfew in regional Mississippi, they're going to do it, and they're not going to come to the school to ask you your opinion. So if you're a senior and you're 18 years old, you need to be making sure that your voice is impactful enough so that when decisions like that are being considered, that you walk in the room with influence, and the influence is your ability to vote.
Absolutely, and we're definitely going to get to that here in a second. But then,
But to answer your
oh, go ahead.
question though, to answer your question, running. So I was in. I was on the city council. Shokwe Lumumba had just been elected mayor. The daddy, Shokwe the daddy, he had just been elected mayor in 2013. It was 2014. And I get a call. I was in a school building that the mayor had passed. I just spoken to the mayor that morning. Well,
Wow.
during my decision making, I ran for mayor because when I looked at the field of people who were running, I understood that none of them had the information or the ability to
Yep.
do the right things with the information that they had. I knew that I had been on council. I understood the budget. I understood how things worked in terms of spending money. I understood a lot of the politics that were going on around the council at that time. And so I felt like if anybody was going to step in and take over for the mayor, then it should be me.
Absolutely. And then when you became the mayor, obviously you have to supervise tons of city divisions, tons of city employees. And this would be in any city: Madison, Ridgeland, Canton, Clinton, Flowood. There are tons of people that work in the city, and the mayor at the end of the day has to supervise all of them. And you talk about having a lot of irons in the fire. So it's a job I don't envy, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that have to report to the mayor to make sure everything gets done in the city.
Yeah. The mayor, if I'm being honest with you, the mayor's job is to, are you familiar with the term systems thinking?
I'm not.
So systems thinking is basically, I'll just give it to you my way. Systems thinking is the ability to be 30,000 feet above the ground and see everything working at one time. You see how everything works together. You ever been on a plane and you're able to look down and see all of everything? Systems thinking works that way. Systems thinking says, all right, I've got a public works department that needs to coordinate with the planning department, who may need to coordinate with another
Yep.
with the CAO's office. We're going to make a decision on, so systems thinking. The mayor has to be able to understand and think about things in concert. Nothing can be looked at in a silo. Every decision that you make on one end, it has an effect on three or four ancillary things on the way down the road. So you got to be thinking, all right, if we put asphalt on this street, if we do a $3 million bond and we put asphalt on the street, do we need to put asphalt on the street now, or do we need to fix the pipes under the street so that when the pipes break, that we don't have to go and dig up the $3 million asphalt?
Yep.
Right. So you
Okay.
gotta, so I'm gonna create two bills. The first bill is the bill from the bond. I gotta pay it. And then when I go and dig the street up, that's a second bill because I gotta pay the bond plus the money that I just dug up the bond money with. So as mayor, that's the, if you're gonna be in that situation or in that position, if you're gonna be CEO of a business, if you're gonna be an entrepreneurs, you're gonna need to understand systems thinking and systems
Yep.
management.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you have to, what you just said is all true. Then you got to work with the actual street workers who have the are operating the equipment and make sure that they're doing their job. Then you got to deal with the engineers that are doing the piping and the water people, which I know you had a great relationship with the water people, and I love how you're saying now. I tried to tell y'all when when they had the water problems that have come up in Jackson. So it really is having to know a little bit about everything, and that's what we try to emphasize is that these kids, when they start voting or if they're going to vote, they need to know that or be familiar that these people making these decisions, you know whatever's going on in Washington D.C. is not going to affect our life as it is in the City Hall of Jackson, City Hall of Madison, or at these county seats, because that's where our everyday lives are really touched by local government. And at the end of the day, even if they don't want to run for office, they can work in these departments and help make our community better.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, the mayor's role is important. It's very important. The elected officials are very important. But those folks who work in the departments, who make things happen, a lot of them are going to be there through 3 and 4 and 5 different mayors, just because that's where
Yeah,
the work gets done.
absolutely.
So yeah.
And something I've always admired about you, even when you were mayor and even now, is I know something else that me and you agree on 100% is in order to get things done, whether it's in the government, whether it's in the business, whether it's in a community, in a church, you have to be able to work with everybody. And one thing about people have always said about Tony Yarber, and I agree, is that look, he may have one way of looking at things, but he'll listen to me and we can work together to get things done instead of playing politics and trying to show up each other. And at the end of the day, no matter what party you're in, no matter what candidate you support, if you want to get things done, you've got to work together to make changes in your community.
Man, politics is stupid. Because particularly party politics, it's so stupid. Like it's the dumbest crap ever. Let me tell you why. So you jump into politics and they say, all right, there's two gangs you can get in. You can, and I'm not talking about you can be a vice lord or a GD. I'm saying you can be a Democrat or you can be a Republican. Those are the two major gangs. And I say gang and there's no pun intended. Those are the two major political gangs that you can join. All right. Now, once you get in the gang, the people that sent you to be a part of the gang, they then become second. Because now, whatever the people who are in the gang say, that's what you do. Isn't that stupid? It is the stupidest mess ever. And here's the problem. Problem is because I'm in a gang, this business requires that I work together with the rival gang members. Well, if your gang, if the two gangs don't want to work together, and it's 8, 9 people on each side who want to work together, then who suffers from that? The
Absolutely,
people
the
at home.
citizens. Yeah,
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, don't fall for the okie doke. It's the oldest trick in the book. It divides you. It puts you on. And I'm gonna say, can I? I want to be as transparent as I can, and I want to say
do it,
this because of the environments that you work in.
do it.
The schools that you work in are pretty they're pretty diverse, or they at least they used to be a few years ago. And because of that diversity, there are going to be some white folks who are going to be really good friends with black folks and vice versa, and that's going to happen. And as soon as y'all start voting, as soon as you start sitting around the table with your mom and them, and they start talking about Trump and Biden and all of that, you are going to immediately feel not a desire, but a pull, a pressure to join one gang or the other. Do not fall for it. Do
I
not
agree.
fall for it. You need to fall for the idea that there is a middle ground. And that middle ground is where people come together and meet. This is what I would do all the time with Republicans. I'm a Democrat, and I walk in the room and I say, "All right, we're not going to talk about abortion. We're not talking about the border. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about crime, education, water. Let's go."
Yeah,
And
you got to look
everybody,
at what's important to the area you serve. National politics don't apply to the city of Jackson, the state of
they don't
Mississippi.
apply.
You have to look at what serves the citizens, and that's why they have to work together.
That's it. And that's the only thing that's gonna make it work, and making sure that the people that we send to those positions, that they understand that that's our expectation.
Yeah, and that's something you did such a great job of as mayor, because I know a lot of Republicans that said, look, Tony Yarber's a Democrat, but I know when I talk to him, we can work together and he'll listen to what I have to say. And everybody is gonna have the best result possible for the citizens of Hinds County and the citizens of Jackson. So, that's why I encourage young people. I had a young person last week. She asked me, she's 18 and she's going to vote. And she said, who I need to vote for? And I said, that's not for me to decide. You have to look at these candidates and decide what's important to you. And you go in there and make the best decision for yourself. And,
Yep.
and that's what I wanted to end on before I get to the questions is, we have an election coming up in 15 days in Mississippi. It's not a presidential election. It's not a national election, but every single person that's watching now, watching later, if they're not old enough to vote, they need to pay attention to this, because state elections affect our lives way more than a national election. And,
Yep.
and some of the candidates have said, look, I may be a Democrat or Republican, but a national Republican platform and national Democrat platform is not what's important in the state of Mississippi. It's not what's important in Hinds County or Madison County. So, and there was a time in our country where women could not vote. There was a time where immigrants could not vote. We have a lot of first generation Americans are going to see this later. And there was a time when black people were not allowed to vote. But now every single person vote counts the same. And look,
Yep.
I'm never going to endorse a candidate. I'm never going to endorse a party. I'm not smart enough to give you political advice anyway. But what I can tell everybody is that you need to have your butt in there voting for somebody, because especially on the local level, that's what's going to affect your life every day. And your vote counts the same as mine. And that's the one time that your voice matters.
Yep. Absolutely, man. I don't
And I
think
think,
that, go ahead.
no, and I thought you gave a great example one time when they do vote to start at the bottom and work their way up, because that's the people that are doing the work every day. And then the people at the top are the ones just firing people and going to meetings.
Yeah, great point. Now this election that's coming up, y'all are going to see statewide election candidates, and so these people are going to be running for governor and lieutenant governor and secretary of state and those kinds of things. I don't think we're going to see a lot of county and stuff. We saw that. Well, yeah. This is a county. Yeah, we got county elections coming up in November as well. Y'all, the county elections are going to be at the bottom. The county elections is what really, really, really matters to Madison, to Ridgeland, and in a lot of cases to cities that are a part of Hinds County but outside of Jackson. And those are the folks who are going to be paving your streets. All right, those are the people that's going to be cutting the grass on the side of the road. Those are the people that are going to be responsible for cleaning water and stuff like that, debris pickup. So I want to encourage you to start at the bottom of the ballot. work your way up. The people at the bottom are the ones that are going to hurt you the most first.
Yeah, and you know, it's like you said, you know, the presidential election is important, and everybody needs to vote in that as well. But you know, me and you are about the same age. I can remember all the way back to President Reagan. I do
Me
not
too.
remember a president ever coming to Mississippi unless it was a disaster where a lot of people died, or they were trying to get a vote. So Mississippi
Right.
has never been on the top priority list to any president, no matter what party they were in.
Well, you know that y'all are. Well, let's recall, presidents are always campaigning, and our government, our federal electoral system is set up through the electoral college for president. And because Mississippi doesn't carry a vast amount of electoral votes, and typically Mississippi is kind of like a gimme for a Republican candidate, because Mississippi's electoral votes are going to go to a Republican 99% of the time. Well,
Yeah,
if you know that, why are you coming? You know, so
yeah,
that's how they work.
yeah. So, and you know, and I'm not saying, you know, don't vote in that election because it's important, but you know, at the end of the day, me and you, I'm 100% with you on that. These local state elections are the ones that you know you really need to pay attention to, and we got a very important one coming up in just 15 days here in Mississippi. But I do
Yep,
want to
go
get to,
vote for your sheriffs.
yeah, and again, and I'm not telling anybody who to vote for, but you know, you need to do some research, figure out what's important to you, figure out what affects your life the most, and go in there and make the best decision based on your research.
Yep.
Now, I do have a few questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I can. These are all ninth graders. Um, this is a good one. This is Micaiah Williamson, one of our volleyball players here, and she asked, "Before you ran for mayor, did you understand what it takes to be a good mayor?"
No, no, Makai. It's like getting married. You think you're ready to be married till you are.
uh, I like this one. This is Ashton Garrett, one of our football players here, and he asked, "When you were mayor, how hard was it to also have a family and also be a politician?"
I'm divorced. So what that tell you?
Well, you had a great reaction on that one. Um, this is a good one. This is Leah Smith, one of our volleyball players here, and she asked, "Obviously, it was a very stressful job being the mayor. How did you stay calm with everything going on and always having the cameras following you?"
I didn't always handle it well. Ashley is her name. Her name's Ashley.
Leah.
Leah. I'm sorry. I don't know where I got Ashley from, Lord. Leah. I didn't always handle the pressure very. I didn't always handle it well. But let me tell you something. I'm glad you asked me this because people don't hardly ask this question. And there was a First Baptist Church in Jackson on State Street. I never forget. One day, it was a mess that day. And I stopped at that church. I walked in and I asked to see the pastor. And they were like, "Oh my God." So I went in and I said to the pastor, "Listen, I just want to be able to stop by every now and then and pray." And he said, "Okay." He said, "We've got a chapel. Let me show you where the chapel is." He said, "Anytime you want, just stop by, come in the chapel and pray." So when days were where I thought that, yeah, I'm just gonna leave and they can figure it out themselves, I stopped by First Baptist.
That's awesome. And I know, and that was Stan Buckley, right? Great guy. He's also a Southern. He also a Southern Miss alum. So that was cool to have a Southern Miss alum there. Now here's a great question. This is Samaya Williamson, another one of our volleyball players, and she asked, "As a mayor, why is it so hard for things to get done, like rebuilding buildings and fixing broken apartments? And if people are so poor, why can't they do more to help?"
Wow. Yeah, great question. And I want you to take this question and the answer that I give you, and I want you to make some noise with it. I want you to always remember. I want everybody to always remember that no matter what people say, um, no matter how much they say they care about you, if there's not a budget that reflects how much they care, they're lying to you. So when we
Wow.
talk about priorities, If we tell you that children are our priorities, then ask the government to see their youth budget. If they say that water is the priority, ask them to see the water budget. So to answer your question in two parts, the first is because we don't prioritize with the resources, the things that we say are important. So by the time it's time to get it done, we've not prioritized the resources, so there's nothing to do it with. And then the second part, and I'll give you an example of what's going on in the city of Jackson. In the city of Jackson, it's extremely hard to do things because the city of Jackson is cash strapped. Everybody's left and are leaving. And because the tax base is shrinking, the ability to be able to bring in the amount of money that's necessary to make things happen is just not there. However, this is the third piece and I'm done. The third piece, and it's also Jackson's problem, and it is that let me just ask y'all this. If if you had to choose between getting the cable turned off and the lights, which would you choose? Exactly.
Everybody said cable.
Exactly. Well, in Jackson, sometimes not just Jackson. Let me not say Jackson. In politics, the cable bill is sometimes considered the sacred cow. The sacred cow is that thing that is expensive. It costs. Nobody can tell you why we're spending the money. Nobody can tell you why it's important, but everybody wants to protect it. And so a lot of that happens, unfortunately, ma'am. And until people start saying, yeah, we're going to turn this cable off. We're going to watch Bounce TV. We're going to do these kinds of things in government that allows for budgeting that has immediate and direct impact in areas that most need it.
Yeah, and I think another point that I think no matter who the mayor is gets a bad rap on is a lot of times these buildings are this land is owned by a private organization or a church, and there's really nothing the mayor can do to make somebody do something with land. It's very, very tough to make somebody develop land that is not owned by the city.
And then let's say, for instance, we're gonna go after these folks. We're gonna go after them. All right. Well, the laws provide that they have due process. They also have rights. So I can send out a letter that says hey, we need you to clean that yard up. Well, they got 60 days to respond. Well, they can respond in 60 days, but it doesn't mean that their response is cleaning it up.
Yeah.
And it just goes on. And sometimes the litigation takes place. Sometimes when I say litigation, sometimes we can sue them. Sometimes we can go after their taxes. But at the end of the day, it takes cooperation, and the mayor has to work with a city council or with a board of aldermen. And at the end of the day, if the mayor can say it, but if those 5 people, those 7 people don't vote for it, it doesn't happen.
Absolutely. And then, that's even on a larger scale on the federal level. We look at Congress and the power of veto, Supreme Court rulings. It happens on the local level as well. So it really is important to understand how all that works. The mayor, you got a bad rap, mayors before you, Ditto, Danks, and even Lumumba now get blamed for stuff. And a lot of times it's not the mayor's fault. There really is a paper trail that has to go for first. Here's a good one. This is London Jackson, one of our band members here. And she asked, what are the limitations of a mayor?
Oh, that's a real good question. The FBI. I guess that's a complex question. I guess the mayor's limitations, first of all, they begin with that particular mayor's capacity. So if you've got a mayor who's got great business acumen, understands high task, high relationship situations, then that mayor is not as limited as someone who doesn't have a lot of resources, doesn't have the ability to tap into different resources. Now, the other limitations are just the laws. I mean, some things the laws just do not allow. As much as we want to tear that house down, my girl, we can't do it. We can't just go with a sledgehammer and do it. We learned that from Mayor Frank Melton. Frank Melton wanted to tear down houses. Frank Melton said the process takes too long. I'm not waiting on the process. And Mayor Frank Melton went with his bodyguards and they took sledgehammers after an abandoned house. And the city got sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I was the mayor when we paid those suits off.
Wow. Well, and then we also had the issue late in Jackson with the garbage contract. And again, you think local politics don't apply to you? Look at that mess that happened, and you had the city council trying to. It was like a reverse veto, and then the mayor tried to sue the city saying that they couldn't do that. So the amount of rules that apply to a mayor is not just a absolute dictatorship. They really have to work together and work within the city government.
Yep. Or the FBI will remind you.
Oh yeah. I just got one more. This is Kyman Dawson, and he asked, what was your management style when you were the mayor of Jackson?
I was high task, high relationship. Until I learned I could not be high relationship. Now, if I learned that, you can't be high relationship, then we just task. Let's get it done, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. And again, it really depends on the group you're working with, and that's in any type of management, but especially in the largest city in the state, it really is. At the end of the day, you got a business to run, which is the city.
Let me say something though.
Management
style is important, but systems thinking is what's going to make your organization go round. So my management style is high task, high relationship. Well, but the question then becomes, what's the task? So I've got to be able to, as manager, I've got to be able to be 30,000 feet above the ground, understand how everything works together, and then assign tasks based on the direction that we want to go in, based on the capacity of work that's happening, and based on a plan that gets us there.
Yeah, and again, I did not envy you when you were in that position. I mean, it's a thankless job no matter who's in it. But again, I always thought you stood for a lot of great stuff and still do. And it's crazy, when you actually talk about things instead of fighting and throwing mud. It's amazing how many things you actually agree on, because so much that you've said when it comes to government and the way governments need to work and the way things need to get done, I agree with you 100%. So it really is amazing when you actually talk about things instead of just attacking people, how much can get done. And that's why, I really encourage these young people to do research. Don't just do what your parents say. Don't just do what the media says or these TikTok stars or what your friends do. Find out what's important to you, learn those issues, and work together. And it's amazing how much more we'll be able to get done in this state, in this county, and in this city.
Indeed, man. I enjoyed y'all today.
Well, yeah, except we're almost out of time. And as always, we thank you so much for joining us. Just such a great person to explain how the government works. But before we go, again, just reiterate how important it is for these young people, even if they don't want to be a part of the government, if they don't want to work for the government, why they need to know what happens in their local and state governments.
How many of you all like to be told what to do without input? You don't. That's why you complain when you're giving chores. That's why you complain when folks ask you to do stuff and you got other plans. Well, that's what government's going to do to you. I don't care. You can go and live, you can move to Montana and live off the grid. When you got to buy groceries, you got to come inside a place that is being run by a system. And so I always like to say, if I'm going to be getting raked over the coals, I at least want to have some input of what kind of coals they're using.
Absolutely.
So you all need to consider engage in the process. I know you're 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, all that's good, but every great movement in American history has been started and carried out by youth. It's never happened without youth. The civil rights movement happened with teenagers and young adults. The old folk were at home saying, y'all ought not be out there trying to get these folk to change. Y'all come on in the house. That's what old folks was doing. Young people were out saying, heck no, we won't go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, we thank you. Oh, and before we go, though, go ahead and tell us if they want to join your church over there on Northside Drive. we got to plug your church, Relevant Empowerment, over there on Northside, where you're the pastor.
Yeah, come on over, y'all. We got a great youth and young adult ministry where we deal with topical stuff, topical subject matter. Y'all come by and see us one Sunday morning, 9 o'clock, or join us online, Relevant Empowerment Church on Facebook.
Yeah, and I've watched you on Facebook a few times. You know, great stuff, great discussion. So if anybody wants to join, it really is good stuff. But I mean, since you took time for us today, we got to plug your ministry over there in Jackson. So again, Tony Yarber, the former mayor of Jackson, thank you so much for joining us. Always learn something when you talk to us.
All right, man. Thanks a bunch. Talk soon. See y'all later.
All right. All right. See you, buddy.